A wild Bisharp! I'm gonna catch you! So, before we start off anything with Move Professor, I'd like to give a few shoutouts to @StriatonRadio and @XSilentOmenX, aka Omen, one of the hosts of the StriatonRadio show. And in future episodes, he'll probably have an interview on this channel, so watch out for that. And on another note, I bought some Pokemon related things. This Bisharp from my trip to Yokohama's Pokemon Center, and this giant Pokeball from my local supermarket. Yes, Pokeball. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So today's episode will cover the move, Trick Room.
It's twisting the dimensions in the Coliseum!
So, now that we're back, most of you might be wondering, what is Trick Room?
What is this Trick Room? Tell me!
Well, Trick Room is a move that not only affects one kind of Pokemon, or not just your opponent, but it affects every Pokemon on the Pokemon field at the moment. So, it's understandable that it's most effective in doubles rather than singles. Now that you have a general idea of what Trick Room affects, let's go into the technical, actual stats of Trick Room. For starters, Trick Room is a 5 PP move, meaning you can use it 5 times in the entire game. Or if you have PP max, it'll up and increase. And priority of the move is -7, meaning it will always go last. So, for example, if the priority of a move has high priority, such as moves like Bullet Punch and Quick Attack, they'll always go first. But since Trick Room has a -7 priority, it'll always go last, regardless of the speed of the Pokemon. And as we mentioned before, the target of the move is all Pokemon on the field.
Oh, I get it now.
Now that we have all the technical things of Trick Room out of the way, now let's talk about the actual effects of Trick Room. For starters, Trick Room is known for making slow Pokemon fast. So, since it affects all Pokemon on the field, all the moves and speeds of Pokemon on the field are reversed. So, if you're fast, you become slow. If you're slow, you become fast. Trick Room is one of my favorite moves in the entire Pokemon game because it allows me to use Pokemon such as Metagross, Mamoswine, Tyranitar, and other slow but powerful Pokemon. Because Trick Room eliminates the negative factor of them being slow, so they'll always be able to hit first, unless the Pokemon you're fighting is way slower than you are, or they're holding an Iron Ball, which decreases speed.
So, you're saying, if I had an Iron Ball, I'll be able to move faster?
Yes, Bisharp, if you had an Iron Ball, you'd be able to move much faster in Trick Room. So, now that we've covered all the Trick Room stats, facts, and what it does, now let's go over to the strategy side of Move Professor. Now that we're in the strategy side of Move Professor, here are some things that I love to do with Trick Room. First, I like to use weather effects with Trick Room. Why weather effects? Because they add a little more area control to the whole game. My favorite kind of weather to use with Trick Room is Sandstorm, because the majority of the slow Pokemon are either rock, ground, or steel, all of which thrive in a sandstorm environment. Pokemon such as Metagross, Mamoswine, and Tyranitar. Or Pokemon with Magic Guard, such as Reuniclus. Which brings me to the second thing I love to do with Trick Room. I love to have a Trick Room sweeper. My favorite Trick Room sweeper of all time is the special sweeper, Reuniclus. I pack him with special attack EVs and HP EVs, so that in a Trick Room environment, his speed wouldn't really matter since he'd be moving first anyways. He'd be hitting Pokemon with Focus Blast, Shadow Ball, and Psychic for a decent amount of coverage, and he's pretty bulky in his own right. Plus, with the move increase, he'll be able to sweep like there's no tomorrow.
Hi, wanna sweep like there's no tomorrow? Come on, man, give me a chance.
Bisharp, maybe one day you'll be able to sweep, once you have a slightly better ability than Defiant. Well, back to the 3 things I love to do with Trick Room. The third thing is, I love to have a priority abusing Pokemon. When I hear priority, the first thing I think of is Pokemon Scizor, or Scizor, since he has access to a Technician boosted, same type attack bonus, Bullet Punch. Since Trick Room reverses speeds, you might think that Scizor or Scizor, or however you pronounce it, is a bad choice for a Trick Room team. Which is quite not true, because since he has a priority move, and a fairly high priority at that, it'll be able to ignore Trick Room's speed-altering abilities.
How come I don't get Bullet Punch? How come I don't get Technician? Stupid Scizor.
Now that we've covered what you can do with Trick Room and
It's twisting the dimensions in the Coliseum!
what kinds of strategies you could use with Trick Room, you probably see a lot of Trick Room teams now. And you'll probably need a way to counter Trick Room teams, because once they get the ball rolling, you're done for. So here are a few tips and strategies to counter Trick Room. First, you can use Trick Room again. If you use Trick Room again, you'll be able to cancel out Trick Room. It'll become a normal Pokemon battlefield. That's one thing you could do. The second thing you could do is also run slow Pokemon, or slow sweepers, to outspeed them in Trick Room. And the third thing you could do is you could pull a page from their book and use the priority abusing Pokemon to punch them out and knock them out before they can even do anything. So yes, here's also some ways to notice if they have a Trick Room team going on. If you notice a bunch of slow Pokemon, that's probably a Trick Room team, or it's a really bad, or maybe wannabe power team, but they can't really do much. Another thing you can look for is Pokemon that use Trick Room. There are a multitude of Pokemon that use Trick Room, such as Reuniclus, Jellicent, Alakazam, one of the lake spirits, I don't know which one, Jirachi, Mew, and a whole slew of Pokemon. So you just need to get familiar with what the popular ones are, and you'll be able to notice they're using Trick Room.
It's twisting the dimensions in the Coliseum!
And so yeah, that's pretty much it for this Move Professor. So stay tuned for next week's episode, and sometime next week before the new episode, I'll probably have an interview up with one of the hosts of StriatonRadio. And if you don't already know, StriatonRadio is a Pokemon podcast dedicated to talking about Pokemon news, improving people's teams, and overall they're a good Pokemon podcast. And also the podcast, It's Super Effective, is another really good podcast that has more diversity, such as they talk about TCG more, and they talk about strategies and battles and all kinds of Pokemon stuff. Both of these podcasts will be linked in the description box below. So yes, also you could follow me on Twitter and email me at profamon@gmail.com. So yes, if you have any questions, any suggestions, please don't hesitate to email me. Or you can hit me up at Twitter at profamon on Twitter. Swag. What is priority? Priority is the stage I would